All right, welcome everyone and hello. Today is my first interview of our near death experience series. And my first interview is with Deborah Atella, who I know and love very much. I've known her since I was a kid when me and her son went to school together. And also, Deb is a life coach. So, Deb, would you like to tell everyone like a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Sure. So thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. So I'm Deborah Atella, and I help women gain clarity and get into alignment with their true selves through coaching, energy healing, and meditation. That I also have a free Facebook group called Sisterhood of What Next for women wondering what the hell am I doing with my life. I go on there and I do lots of free coaching and meditation and just some mindset work with people. And I did have a near death experience back in 2005. My kids were 10 going on 11. My daughter was 4. And then my middle guy, Jeffrey, was 7. So my kids were young. They were all, elementary and preschool. And it was just out of the blue and a crazy situation.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that today. So,
Mhm.
the reason that I wanted to start the near death experience series was because when I started awakening spiritually, I didn't have my own near death experience. I was just interested and intrigued in hearing the stories of people who have, because some of the things that happen are so incredible that you
Mhm.
can't take someone's experience away from them. And it transformed each person's life in a way that they never expected. And it is quite interesting how someone would go through such a terrible situation on the face value and come out with I'm getting the chills, such an incredible, amazing experience on the other side. So I'm so excited. I know the listeners are excited to hear what you have to say. So I'll let you get into telling us what happened, like where you were before and
Sure.
what happened and how it changed you. So I'm excited. I'll leave it to you.
All right. So it was January of 2005. Like I said, I had 3 little kids. I'm happily married, just a stay at home mom that worked very part time. I was a personal trainer, spinning instructor, group fitness instructor at my local YMCA. So I worked very, very part time. I was home all the time with the kids. And I was having a lot of foot pain in 2004. It started in 2004, and I had heel spurs and plantar fasciitis. And if anyone has had either one of those, you know how excruciating the pain could be. I'm not someone who's quick to take medicine for anything. And I'm not discounting medicine. If you need it, you take it. It's just not my automatic thing. I always try other remedies first. But the pain was so excruciating that I was taking a prescription for the pain. And at some point, the prescription medication was recalled off the market. And my doctor switched me in January of 2005 to an over the counter pain reliever. He had me take double the dose of the over the counter pain reliever, which is the prescription strength of that medicine. Within 2 weeks of taking that medicine, I hemorrhaged. So it was a Friday, and my kids, everybody woke up like, regular Friday in January. My boys went to school. My daughter was in preschool and she went to afternoon preschool. I had had a doctor's appointment that morning because I was going to have a procedure done to my uterus and I needed to go and have a biopsy done. So I dropped my daughter off at a friend's and she was going to take her to afternoon preschool. And I was helping that day and bringing snack. So I go to the doctor's in the morning. He does the biopsy in his office. I go about my merry way, running errands, going to the grocery store, getting snack to bring the preschool, go have this beautiful day that I'm like the helping mom at preschool, reading the story, doing the snack, all mommed up, come home, have dinner with the other kids, my husband. We have this nice night. And at some point in the night, the 3 kids and I go and get in my bed to watch TV. We didn't want to watch what my husband was viewing in the family room. We all get in bed and we all fall asleep in my bed. In the middle of the night, I wake up and 2 of the kids had made it into their own room, and my middle guy was in my bed, and my husband was still asleep on the sofa. And I was 36 at the time, just to give you a context of how old I was. So I'm 36 and I wake up and I had like a bellyache and I felt like I had to go to the bathroom. So I go into the bathroom and blood came out. And it came out not from the front, from the back. And I was like, what is happening? And I'm like, what did the doctor do? Did he nick something? Like, why is this happening? But I was so tired and so out of it. And I just was like, okay, whatever. I'll call him in the morning. And I go back to bed. I wake up again, not feeling like I have to go to the bathroom. I go into my bathroom. Now, my bedroom is not large, and my master bath is tiny, and it's right next to the bed, the entrance. I go in there, and again, blood comes out, and I'm like, what is happening? And the next thing I remember, I'm on my bathroom floor. And I'm like, how did I get on the floor? Why am I on the floor? And then the next thing I remember, I'm in my shower and I had fallen through the shower doors. And it was then that I realized, oh my God, I'm passing out. I passed out. So I threw the water on in the shower, stripped my clothes off. I was covered in blood. There was blood everywhere. There was blood all over the bathroom, all over myself. It was just everywhere. It was pouring. It must have just been pouring out of my body everywhere. I rinse off in the shower, throw a towel on myself, and I'm like, I need help. Meanwhile, I have this house full of such deep sleepers that I fell through the shower and nobody woke up. Like, that's a loud noise, right?
Yeah.
So I make it to the top of my steps and I go to call my husband's name, Jeff. And I say what I think is going to be like, Jeff. And Jeff comes out. And I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? Where's my voice? Where's my voice? And I just keep saying his name. And I knew I couldn't go down those steps. Like, I couldn't. And my son, Ricky, whose bedroom I'm actually recording in right now, because he's grown up and doesn't live here anymore. He came out, he heard me and he's like, what's the matter? I'm like, get daddy. So he's 10 going on 11. I'm like, just go get daddy. I go back into my bedroom and I'm like, well, if blood's going to keep coming out of me, I'm just going to get back in the shower. So I'm in a towel, shivering, sitting in the bottom of my shower. And what I don't know is that I'm blue. I know my face is busted up because I fell through the shower and I felt it. But I'm blue. My husband comes upstairs and he's like, what's going on? And he looks in, he peeks his head in the bathroom. There's just blood everywhere. And I'm blue in a towel in the bottom of the shower. And my husband's very calm, very cool, very collected. He never loses it. He's always like even keeled. And he starts screaming for my son to go get the phone, the cordless phone, because this was like 2005, right? Everybody has a house phone. He's like, go get the cordless phone. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm calling 911. That's what I'm doing. And I'm calling. My best friend lives near us. I'm calling her to come over here and stay with the kids because you have to go to the hospital. And I'm like, are you crazy? I don't have to go to the hospital. Calls 911, calls my best friend, calls my mother. 911 gets there and they come up and they're like, uh-oh. And I'm in the bottom of the shower. I'm shivering. They're like, you have to go to the hospital. And I'm like, going to the hospital? They're like, you're going to the hospital. Now all the kids are up. I have to be taken out on a stretcher in front of the kids. It was horrible. And I'm like, I'll be right back. Like, and daddy's going to come with me. I'm okay. I love you. I just have to go get checked out. It's okay. And my best friend starts screaming. She's not okay. She's dying. She's dying.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, somebody needs to shut her up. These kids are so little. Stop it. I'm not dying. And I didn't have any clue that I really was dying. And I'm like, are you crazy? Like, stop it. We get in the ambulance and I tell them that there's, where we live, we are in between a few hospitals. There was a certain hospital I didn't want to go to, absolutely under no circumstances. And then there was another hospital that's further away and that's where I wanted to go. And I said that. And they were like, honey, you're not making it to there. You're going to the closest hospital, which they took me to. It wasn't the one I didn't want to go to. We get there and I'm in the emergency room and Everybody's coming in, all this stuff is happening, and I am so sick. Like, I am just like, I'm so like, what is happening to me? Why is this going on? Like, give me something, I'll be fine. And they're like, you need to calm down and just lay down. And I'm like all like feisty and sassy and like, don't tell me what to do. And I don't like this, I don't want to be in here. I gotta go. And the doctor comes in. And it was really strange because when you go to an emergency room, if you've ever been to one in a hospital, it's usually just like bays or like not like your own private room. Right. But I was like in this weird room. And the doctor came in and he said, we can't monitor your heart in here. We need to be able to monitor your heart. We're going to move you to a different spot down here in the emergency department. And then we're going to take you to intensive care. And when he said he was going to take me to intensive care, I sat up in bed and I'm like, I'm not going to intensive care. What are you talking about? I'm going to intensive care. I threw up and I passed out at the same time. What my husband said happened was that I came back around, they got me out of bed, and they started to walk me out of the room. Why they would walk me, I have no idea. And that I passed out again, and that they scooped me up and made him go to the waiting room and took me off somewhere. What I know happened was I threw up, I passed out, and I was in light. I was just in white light everywhere. And I knew I was. And I was like, oh shit, I'm in the light. Oh my God, I'm in the light. And it was just like, I can't even describe the beauty of the light of it. Was crystally and white. And it was just like this like gorgeous color of light all around me, and just like peace and calm. Even though I knew I was in it, I was still like, huh. And just like love, like everywhere. And my cousin Laura, who we called each other Bud, was killed in a car accident in 1992. So this is 2005. And she's behind me, behind my left shoulder. And I know she's there. And I turn and I see her, but I can't turn my body. She's pushing my left shoulder, pushing me. And I'm like, oh my God, Bud, I love you so much. I'm so happy to see your face. Let me hug you. And she's pushing me. She never speaks. She just keeps pushing and pushing and pushing. And I'm like, stop it. Stop pushing me. I want to hug you. I just kept wanting to turn and just like hold her. And she wouldn't stop. She kept pushing and pushing and pushing until she pushed me so hard that I'm sitting up in bed, and there's like nurses around me, like, lay down, lay down, lay down. Little while later, my husband comes in and I'm like, oh my God, Laura's here. And he's like, stop talking. So I saw her in full physical form behind my left shoulder. And then she was in energy form. As soon as I was, the nurses were like, lay down, she was there. But like a little ball of energy, like Tinkerbell, like just like this little ball of light. And she was like swooshing all
and you
around
could
me.
see that.
I could see the light. I could see her, and I could feel her. And just like swoosh, swoosh, swoosh all around me, up and down, all over my body, all over the area of the emergency room that I was in, and looking at all the monitors, and then near my husband, and then all around me. And I'm like, Jeff, look at Laura. Laura's here. And he's like, Deb, I'm going to need you to shut up. They're going to get a straitjacket. Like, stop talking, So they moved me to now intensive care. And we get up to the intensive care unit, and I'm like, in this private room, and I have this amazing nurse, and they bring me in the room, but all I see is Laura. And she's like all over the place. Shoosh, 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 shoosh. And the nurse is trying to talk to me, and I'm talking to my husband, and I'm like, what is she doing? She doesn't know anything about this. Look at her. She's everywhere. He's like, stop talking, stop talking, stop talking, stop talking. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Stop talking. Look, don't you see her? Don't you feel? And then the nurse is telling me stuff, and I'm not listening to her because I'm just watching Laura everywhere, right? Finally calms down. And we're sitting in the room waiting, doctors. It's like nonstop, people coming in and out. And I see next to the window, there's like a ledge. My brother-in-law, my husband's brother, died in 1991. And my father-in-law died in 2000. Now they're there. But they're in full physical form. Laura's in energy form. They're in full physical form.
I'm
And
just
I
getting the
say,
chills.
right? And they're just sitting there like, and I'm like, Jeff, your dad and your brother are right there. Do you see them? And he's like, Dad, if you don't stop talking, I swear to God, they're going to put you in like a straitjacket. Stop it. Stop talking. And I cannot stop talking about it. But meanwhile, I was so weak and lost almost all the blood in my body, that it's like so animated telling you this. It's like I was like, they're there. Everything was like a whisper because I was so, so, so weak. Um, Laura and my father-in-law and brother-in-law stayed with me in that room until I got in the hospital on a Saturday morning, like in the middle of the night, very early Saturday morning. They were there until Wednesday night when they knew that I was out of danger. I had 4 blood transfusions within the first 24 hours that I was there. I had to have an endoscopy, a colonoscopy, and then nuclear scans done. And you know, I know that they made sure that I was okay and that the right doctors came into my room because, and the nurses even said it, and they were like, the nurses were angels on earth. The doctors that I had were incredible. And this like incredible doctor comes in, and she was the GI doctor on call. That, I was like, you know, had this like rectal bleeding. So they called the GI team, and this woman comes in, and the surgeons come in at the same time, and she threw them out of my room because they're like, let us go in and look. And she's like, you're not touching her. She's 36. You're not touching her. Give her a chance. Let me see. Let me work with her first. Because if they would have gone in, most likely what they told me would have happened was they would have instantly given me a colostomy. They would have gone in and done unnecessary surgery to my colon, to my intestinal tract, and I would have ended up with maybe a reversible colostomy, maybe not. And it was so unwarranted and unneeded. She saved me from all of that. And I know that it was like them protecting me, like making sure the right people came in and took care of me the whole time. So it was discovered, that from me taking the over-counter medicine, it caused the GI bleed, which is a common side effect if you take too much of that medication, which I was only doing what my doctor told me to do, right? But that was a side effect, and that's what happened. So now I, very rarely, mostly never take that class of medicine unless I absolutely, need to. And my body healed and I was okay. And it did take me like a full year to completely recover, to regain all of my strength. But it like played with my head, while I had this beautiful experience of being with Laura and spending all these days with her, my brother-in-law, my father-in-law. I got like so bitter afterwards that my body turned on me. Like, how could I was so healthy and fit and, doing all these great, like, I taught like spinning classes. You have to be in shape to teach a spinning class or to be able to take, a regular spinning class. Like, and then I taught, all these other group fitness classes, and I was a trainer, and, exercise was part of my life. I was really fit. And how come my body just turn on me like that? And it played with my head for a long time. 5 years after the hemorrhage, I had to have a repeat colonoscopy. And this is when I began to see it as a gift and not this horrible thing that happened. I had to have a repeat colonoscopy in 5 years. And at that time, when they went in, I had precancerous polyps that would have stayed in my body until I was 50 and had a routine colonoscopy, or if I would have exhibited any problems. So what? I was like 41 at the time. So from 41 to 50 is a long time for cancer to grow in your body. They would have turned to cancer somewhere along that time. So that hemorrhage saved me from colon cancer. And I am screened all the time,
That's
much more
amazing.
often than the average person.
That is so amazing. I
Hmm.
can't even believe that. That's incredible.
So it was a gift. It ended up really being a gift.
hmm That's so crazy. And so tell everyone who's listening how it impacted your life afterwards. Like, so sometimes, like, if you have an experience like that, like, did you believe in the afterlife before you had your experience, and how did it change how you believe in the afterlife now?
Yes. So I always did believe in, I've always believed in the afterlife. When I was a baby, my uncle died, my mom's brother. He was 19 years old. I was just about 7 months old. I literally spent my whole early childhood in the cemetery. My grandmother would go to the cemetery every day for years after my uncle died. And I lived with her for periods of time when I was little, and she would watch me other times. I went to the cemetery almost every day of my early childhood, and I was fascinated with the statues. She would tell me that Snow White lived in the cemetery, so I wouldn't be
Make
scared.
you
That was
feel
my
better,
favorite
yeah.
fairy tale when I was little. So I thought all these statues of angels and things, and the mausoleums were where the seven dwarfs lived. But I was always really like knew that people were there. Like I just knew they were, and there was like energy all around, and I could always feel it. And my uncle was in my grandmother's house, like the lights would click and things would happen, and she would say, "It's Uncle Robert." And I'm like, "Oh, it's just Uncle Robert. Like, he'll never hurt me. It's fine. It's just Uncle Robert." And so I always was very, very, very intuitive, could always like read and feel the energy of people and walk into a room and read and feel. But I shut it down in myself as I got older and older and older. I would get in trouble a lot when I was a kid because I would say things to my mom like, "That person, not okay. I don't like the way they feel. I don't want to be near them." And as you know, I would be like, "That's disrespectful. Stop it. There's no reason for you to say that." But there was reasons. They just weren't listening to what I was saying. So I started to shut it down in myself. And then I was not surprised at all that Laura showed up for me or that my father-in-law and my brother-in-law did, because from the minute that she died, I always felt her. And I
Mhm.
didn't talk about always feeling her, but I always knew she was there. I always felt her. And
Mhm.
when my daughter was born, my daughter's middle name is Laura, and she's in my daughter. I would see her, like literally things that my daughter would do, mannerisms, different things. And the older that my daughter gets, the more it comes out as well. So I always believed that they were here, they were around us, angels exist, past lives are real things. And then I had this experience, and like I said, it really threw me for a loop. And what I didn't mention was the year that it took me to recover, I lost like 6 women in my life. One of them being my grandmother, like the biggest influence of my life. And it knocked me out of the game so much, between being freaked out that like I almost died and left these kids without a mother, and then losing, the most influential adult in my life. I was not okay for a long time. It put me into therapy, but I really disconnected from my spiritual side once all the deaths started to happen. And it wasn't until around 2012 when I started to meditate. And I had owned a retail business at the time, and I was in such like stress and distress. And I convinced myself if I could learn to meditate, it would help me. And of course it did. But the person that I connected with to learn how to meditate with was also a Reiki master. So I would not only meditate, she would do Reiki with me. So I was getting energy work and meditation, and it felt delicious every time I left being with her. And then I started to open up to that spiritual side of me again. And, the awakening began there. And that was like 7 years from
Mhm.
5 to 12. But, that's when it really started for me to really accept it. And then, it just kept blossoming and blossoming until 2017. So from 2012 to 2017, I meditated, but not every day. I've always felt the benefit of it, but I wasn't doing it consistently. In 2017, I made it a habit, and I've meditated every single day since April 6th of 2017. And that led me to find my teachers. And it
Mhm.
brought me into the presence of this magnificent woman, Sally Marie Young, who was friends with my original meditation teacher, Allie Hotmer. And it brought me into the presence of Sally. And I started to receive energy work and coaching what's the word I'm looking for? Regularly. Oh my God, I couldn't get the word. I started to like meet with Sally on a regular basis. And then that led me to, I didn't talk about my story a lot about my near experience. I didn't, it wasn't just like part of my everyday conversation. And she's like, you have to talk about that. Like, that's part of you. And by me exploring it with her and opening it up and receiving regular energy work and then becoming attuned to Reiki myself and then beginning, my own self practice of Reiki to then, having a practice that I, work with other people and do energy healings and clearings with people, it just brought this whole new world to me.
That is so incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So now that you have opened back up to your spiritual side and that you have explored and become more in depth, do you think that you, before you came to Earth, I know some people might believe that they have soul contracts and things that they agree to before they come here. Do you think that you agreed and signed up to have your near-death experience here on Earth?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You
I do.
do.
Yeah. Like I think that I signed up for everything that's happened to
Uh-huh.
me throughout my
Yeah.
life. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
incredible. And so even though you were still trying to suppress certain things from your near death experience, do you feel like it made you more intuitive anyway? Like, did it turn on any gifts that you were just like, no, like you were seeing things happen more frequently, or did it change anything in terms of your intuition, or you just feel like you already had it?
I already had it, but I
Mm-hmm.
denied it.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
deny it all the time. And like I would
Mm-hmm.
just keep it under wraps. Like I would
Mm-hmm.
know things and and not say it to
Mm-hmm.
people. And
Mm-hmm.
then something would happen and I'd be like, I already knew that. Or, like I knew that was gonna happen or whatever. And
Yeah.
so it wasn't until I started to talk about
Mm-hmm.
my near death experience. And that really wasn't until I started to work with Sally in
Mm-hmm.
2017. Um, so once I started to really talk about it and think about it more, other than in terms of just like I got all this time with Laura that nobody else got,
Mm-hmm.
um, that's when I started to like accept that it was this incredible, miraculous thing that happened to me
Mm-hmm.
and separate it from like how distressful the hemorrhage was
Mm-hmm.
and just look at the whole thing as, like I said, 5 years after I had it, I did look at the hemorrhage as a gift because it saved me from cancer, but it was still distressing to me to think about it,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
how it affected, my kids and all of that. Cause like your mom almost dies in front of you. That affects,
Of
that
course.
affects you. And we've dealt with that, when they were younger and we handled that. But that was even more distressful for
Mm-hmm.
me. So then I was able to, once I started to talk about it regularly and look at the near death part of it versus the actual cause of why I got to so near death, that started to really open me up to, I have work to do here. Of course they sent me back.
Mm-hmm.
If I would have hugged her, I wasn't coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I ever put that together until I started to work with Sally. And I'm like, of course I couldn't hug her because then I couldn't come back. I would have gone with her and she knew I couldn't go yet.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Right. So she was pushing you.
I really believe like she was sent to make sure that I came back.
Mm-hmm. And what is the biggest lesson that you feel like you've learned from your near-death experience?
Like, it's beautiful over there. Don't fear it.
Yeah.
Like, we fear all the, of course, you want to be with your family and your friends and, you have things that you want to do or accomplish in life, but it's better there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, eh, I'm not saying anybody should ever cause themselves to get there until it's their time to get there. But once you get there, you're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. Were you afraid of dying before?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And
Yes.
now how do you feel?
No, I mean, other than, I want to be here to see my kids, hit all their adult milestones. They're all adults now. And, I have a grandbaby coming. I want to be there for that. But I want to see what my husband and I look like really old. But other than that, no, because I know it's just beautiful there. It's
Mhm.
just nothing but love there.
That's so incredible to have that experience. I think like especially during a time like this, and maybe this is why I'm being guided to do videos like this, is because so many people are fearing death right now because of
Hmm.
everything going on in the world. And to have people like you with experiences where you've faced death and you've seen how it is, and it may not be so bad after all as you think, like, and it
Right.
sounds like very peaceful and honestly even better than here. Yet we're still here for a reason and we still have things to accomplish here.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
We're here for a reason. We have things to accomplish here, and it's not up to us to end that sooner.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's up to us
Absolutely.
to fulfill what we came here to do and to be brave enough to do it,
Yes,
you know?
exactly. I
Hmm.
agree with you wholeheartedly. So, is there anything else that you want everyone to know in how your near death experience impacted you?
So I would just say that it made me, once I fully like accepted it, it just made me accept all the gifts that I do have. And and I'm just more compassionate or empathetic about that, like why they do. And it's okay. Like, and there's always somebody that you can go and talk to or get help about something that you're stressed about. And I it just made me more open to learning different things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
just because I always did something this way, even with my own energy work that I do with clients, like, you learn a modality and it's taught this way, but it's okay if you get into it another way,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it made me trust my intuition and my whole connection to my own spirit more.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's amazing and incredible. And I am so grateful to have you here today telling everyone about your experience. Your experience was emotional. I'm like sitting here, like basically crying. I'm like, oh gosh, I don't know if I was prepared for the emotions that are coming up right now, but also so inspiring because it shows us you have a tangible experience of the afterlife and just showing us like what that could be like and giving people a little glimpse into what heaven is.
Mhm.
And for that, I'm so grateful.
Oh,
And
thank you.
so, yeah. And so, in conclusion, if you want to, anyone who's listening wants to find anything more about you or chat with you more
Mhm.
about anything that you do, because Deb
Sure.
wears many hats, she does many awesome things. They can come find you and on Facebook, would you say?
So I would say, so the Sisterhood of What Next group is on Facebook. I'm on Instagram as at Deborah Atella, just my name. And then my website is deborah.atella.com.
Awesome. So,
Mm-hmm.
guys, go find her there if you want to know more or if you want to work with her because she's awesome. She's so down to earth. And she just has this, Deb, you just have this great perspective about you that just makes everybody feel accepted and
Oh,
understanding. Like you just get it in a way that I just absolutely adore and I love. So,
oh, thank
I can't
you.
say enough good things about you. And, yeah, so everyone's going to be able to see this podcast on YouTube. And you can also follow me at illuminated underscore hearts underscore at Instagram, or my website is illuminated hearts.com. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.